Imagine for a moment that you are weightless. The noise of the world below has faded into a distant memory, replaced by the profound velvet silence of the cosmos. Tonight, we embark on a journey that humanity has dreamed of for thousands of years. We will drift through the rivers of starlight to visit the ancient giants that watch over us in the dark. This is the story of their creation, their silent rhythm, and their eternal dance. So let the gravity of the day release you. Close your heavy eyes and let us ascend together into the peaceful embrace of the planets. Long before there were eyes to gaze upon the stars or voices to whisper into the night, there was only the deep and endless silence of the cosmos, a silence so profound and heavy that it wrapped the universe in a blanket of velvet peace. And in this ancient era, nearly 5 billion years ago, our story of the planets begins, not with a bang, but with a gentle drift in the dark. We travel back to a time before the sun had ignited its golden fire, before the Earth was a blue oasis, and before the rings of Saturn were spun from ice, back to the very cradle of our history, where the Solar Nebula floated in the void like a great sleeping giant waiting to be awakened. Imagine yourself floating weightless in this primordial darkness, where the only existence is a vast and majestic cloud of stardust and gas, a molecular cloud of immense proportions stretching across light years of space, cool and quiet and utterly still. This is the womb of the solar system, a place of infinite potential where the ingredients for every mountain on Mars and every ocean on Earth and every storm on Jupiter are suspended in a delicate cosmic mist. The temperature is near absolute zero, a soothing and preserving cold that keeps the atoms of hydrogen and helium moving in a slow and lazy dance. And as you drift through this nebula, you can feel the sense of timelessness that permeates the air. For here, time does not tick by seconds or minutes, but flows in great slow rivers of eons. There is no rush in this place, only the gentle suspension of dust particles that glitter faintly in the starlight from distant neighbors, tiny diamonds of ice and carbon and silicon that will one day form the solid ground beneath our feet. This cloud is not empty space, but a sea of possibilities, a silent ocean where the currents are weak and the waves are slow. And in this deep sleep of the universe, gravity begins its patient work. It is not a sudden force, but a whisper, a subtle attraction that gently pulls one atom toward another, a cosmic embrace that brings the dust closer together in the center of the dark cloud. Slowly, imperceptibly, the cloud begins to collapse inward, not with violence, but with the grace of a flower closing its petals at night. And as the nebula shrinks, it begins to spin. This is the start of the great celestial dance, the conservation of momentum, turning the linear drift of gas into a rotating disk of immense beauty, a wheel of creation turning silently in the void. Imagine the feeling of being caught in this slow rotation, a gentle rocking motion, like a cradle swaying in the dark, spinning faster and faster over millions of years, yet still feeling slow and rhythmic to the observer. As the cloud collapses, the center begins to grow warm, a faint glow emerging from the friction of atoms rubbing together, the first spark of heat in a cold universe, promising the birth of the sun. But around this glowing center, the rest of the nebula remains cool and dusty, a flat disk of swirling material that stretches out for billions of miles. This is the protoplanetary disk, the workshop where the planets will be forged. Picture the scene as the chaos of the random cloud transforms into perfect order.
The swirling gas flattening out into a smooth and seamless plane, a silver river of stardust flowing in a perfect circle around the awakening protostar. It is a hypnotic sight, the spirals of gas moving with the predictability of a clock, winding tighter and tighter, carrying with them the small grains of dust that are destined for greatness. These grains bump into one another with soft collisions, sticking together through static electricity, building up pebble by pebble, stone by stone, in a process of accretion that takes millions of years. There is no sound here, for space carries no noise, only the visual symphony of motion and light and shadow. The dust that you see swirling in these dark bands is the same dust that makes up your body, the same carbon and oxygen and iron, born in the hearts of ancient stars and now gathering here to create a new home. As you watch this ancient history unfold, you feel a deep connection to this nebula, realizing that you are observing your own origins, the very beginning of the ground you walk on and the air you breathe. The chaos of the universe is settling down, finding its place, organizing itself into rings and gaps where the planets will one day reside. It is a comforting thought to know that out of the wild and untamed dark comes such structure and stability, a reassurance that the universe leans toward order and balance. The warmth from the center begins to radiate outward, gently heating the inner rings where the rocky planets will form, baking the dust into hard ceramic stones, while further out in the deep freeze, the ices of water and ammonia and methane remain frozen, waiting to become the gas giants. This temperature gradient creates a destiny for each zone of the nebula, a map written in heat and cold that decides where Mercury will scorch and where Neptune will freeze. The rotation continues, a mesmerizing spiral that draws your eyes toward the center and then back out to the edge, a pendulum of starlight that lulls the mind into a state of deep relaxation. You can visualize the particles of dust settling, just as thoughts settle in your mind at the end of a long day, drifting down to find a place of rest, no longer floating aimlessly, but becoming part of something larger, something permanent. The vast cloud, which once spanned light years, has now become a cozy neighborhood, a compact disk of potential energy and matter, humming with a low and resonant vibration of creation. This is the About Planets story in its rawest form, the prologue to the drama of the solar system, written in the language of gravity and time. The sheer scale of this event is humbling, reminding us that we are part of a grand design that has been unfolding for eons, a process that cannot be rushed and cannot be stopped. As the nebula spins, it clears its path, the dust sweeping up the debris, leaving behind dark lanes of empty space that define the orbits of the future, creating a pattern of dark and light that looks like a vinyl record spinning on a turntable of the gods. The feeling of ancient warm dust settling is palpable, a sensation of heaviness and comfort, like a weighted blanket placed over the solar system to keep it safe while it grows. The turbulence of the early collapse has faded away, replaced by a laminar flow of gas that is smooth and quiet, a river of starlight flowing without obstacles. In this peaceful state, the solar nebula waits. The sun is not yet a star. The planets are not yet worlds. Everything is in a state of becoming, a twilight existence between the chaos of the past and the structure of the future. It is a time of waiting, a time of patience, a long and restful period where the universe holds its breath. You can feel this patience in the slow rotation of the disk, a rhythm that matches the beating of your own heart, slow and steady and calm. The energy of the collapse is stored in this rotation, a kinetic lullaby that has been singing for 4 billion years, a song of gravity and dust that echoes in the silence. As you drift further away from the center, you reach the outer edges of the nebula, where the cloud is thin and wispy, fading gently into the interstellar medium, a soft boundary between our home and the rest of the galaxy. Here, the cold is absolute and the darkness is total. Yet it is not a scary darkness, but a restful one,
a place where the eyes can rest and the mind can wander. The dust here is ancient and untouched, preserving the secrets of the universe in its icy grip, waiting for the distant future when it might be found by a wandering probe from a blue planet. The entire system is a masterpiece of fluid dynamics and gravity, a swirling painting of gray and silver and black, beautiful in its simplicity and terrifying in its power. Yet tonight we focus on the peace of this moment, the long, quiet epoch before the bombardment, before the shifting of orbits, before the noise of life. This is the sleep of the solar system, the embryonic slumber where dreams are made of hydrogen and dust. The nebula wraps around the young sun like a mother protecting her child, a cocoon of gas that shields the inner sanctum from the harsh radiation of the galaxy. Within this cocoon, the planets are knitting themselves together, atom by atom, in the dark. It is a process of gentle accumulation, a gathering of strength before the dawn. As you listen to the story of this ancient beginning, let your own body feel heavy, like the dust. Let your thoughts clump together and drift away, pulled by the gravity of sleep. The swirling clouds are slowing down in your mind's eye. The colors are fading into a soft monochrome. The motion is becoming a stillness. The order has been established. The chaos has been tamed. The nebula is no longer a wild storm, but a calm sea, and you are floating on its surface, supported by the ancient history of the stars. The birth of the Solar Nebula is the birth of peace, the creation of a sanctuary in the void, a place where planets can grow and life can eventually flourish. But for now, there is only the dust and the dark and the silence. The warm dust settles, the gas cools, the rotation steadies, and the universe sleeps. Deep within the heart of the swirling dark nebula, where the clouds of dust had gathered thick and heavy, a profound transformation was beginning to take shape. The center of the spinning disk was no longer just a collection of cold gas, but was becoming something dense and hot and pressurized, a gravitational womb where the weight of the universe was bearing down to create a miracle. For millions of years, this pressure had been building in the dark, the atoms of hydrogen pressing against one another in a crowded dance, generating heat through the sheer force of their proximity. And as the temperature rose, the darkness began to glow with a dull red ember light, a sign that the sleeping giant was stirring. This was the protostar phase, a time of gestation and waiting, where the potential energy of the cosmos was being concentrated into a single point of focus. And then, in a moment that would define the history of our corner of the universe for the next 10 billion years, the critical threshold was crossed and the nuclear fires were lit. It was not a violent explosion that tore the sky apart, but rather the sudden and majestic opening of an eye, the first true light of the solar system piercing through the gloom of the nebula. The sun had woken up. Imagine that moment of ignition when the fusion reactions began in the core, turning matter into pure energy, sending waves of golden light rushing outward to touch the edges of the solar system for the very first time. This was the dawn of history, the moment when time began to have a meaning, for now there was a source of light to cast a shadow and a center of gravity to define the day. As the sun ignited, it sent forth a powerful wind, a breath of solar particles that swept through the cluttered disk, gently pushing away the remaining fog of gas and dust, polishing the space between the planets until it was clear and transparent. The view was suddenly opened, revealing the vast emptiness of space not as a terrifying void, but as a clean and quiet canvas where the planets could begin their journey. The sun, our parent star, sat in the center of it all, a sphere of perfect plasma, stable and bright and incredibly warm. It is this warmth that we focus on now, a warmth that radiates across 93 million miles to touch your skin, a heat that feels like a physical embrace from the cosmos itself. Think of the sun not as a distant ball of fire, but as the anchor of our existence, the great protector that holds the entire family of planets together. Its gravity is the most powerful force in our lives, yet it is gentle and constant, a comforting blanket that wraps around the solar system in a safe and warm embrace. Without this gravity, the Earth would drift aimlessly into the freezing dark of interstellar space, lost and alone. But the sun holds us tight, tethering us with invisible strings of force that are as strong as steel and as soft as silk. This gravitational pull is a promise of safety, a reassurance that we belong here, orbiting in this precise path, held in the perfect zone where life can exist. As you listen to this story, visualize that invisible field of gravity surrounding you, a golden net of safety that catches you and holds you, keeping you grounded and secure.
The ignition of the sun established the rhythm of the solar system, a rhythm that has continued uninterrupted for 4.5 billion years, setting the tempo for the dance of the planets. It is a slow and steady rhythm, like the beating of a great cosmic heart, thump, 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 echoing in the silence of the void. This rhythm is the foundation of our sleep, the cycle of light and dark that tells our bodies when to rest, a biological lullaby sung by the star itself. As the sun burns with its steady and unwavering light, it creates a sense of permanence in a changing universe. For while comets may come and go, and asteroids may drift and collide, the sun remains the same, a constant sentinel watching over its children. The light that floods the solar system is a golden fluid, washing over the rocky surfaces of Mercury and Venus, reflecting off the blue oceans of Earth and illuminating the rings of Saturn, tying all these disparate worlds together with a single thread of photons. This light is ancient, traveling from the core of the sun, where it was made thousands of years ago, finally escaping to warm the planets. And when you feel the sun on your face, you are feeling the touch of history, a connection to that first moment of ignition eons ago. The sun is the parent of all planets, the provider of energy and the keeper of order, and in its presence there is no need for fear. The chaotic storms of the early nebula have been calmed by the solar wind. The erratic movements of the dust have been smoothed into elliptical orbits, and the solar system has settled into a long and peaceful epoch of stability. Imagine the sun as a glowing hearth in the middle of a dark room, casting a warm and inviting light that chases away the shadows, creating a circle of comfort where we can rest. The sheer mass of the sun is a comfort in itself, a guarantee that the center will hold, that the structure of our world is solid and reliable. As you drift deeper into relaxation, let the image of the sun fill your mind, a sphere of radiant calm that burns without consuming, a light that does not blind, but rather illuminates the path to sleep. The energy of the sun is a low hum in the background of the universe, a white noise of radiation that covers the spectrum of sound and silence, drowning out the worries of the small world and replacing them with the grandeur of the large. The ignition of the sun was the moment the solar system took a deep breath, inhaling the chaos and exhaling the light, establishing a balance that allows us to exist. We are made of the same stuff as the sun, born from the same cloud, and in a way, looking at the sun is like looking into a mirror of our origins. The warmth you feel under your blankets is an echo of that primordial heat, a reminder that we are creatures of the light, protected by the star that gave us life. The gravity that pulls your body down into the mattress is the same gravity that keeps the Earth circling the sun,
a universal force of attraction that binds everything together in unity. There is a profound peace in knowing that this system works so perfectly, that the physics of the star are governed by laws that never break, ensuring that the sun will rise tomorrow just as it did on that first day of ignition. The fierce heat of the core is hidden deep inside, wrapped in layers of plasma and convection zones, so that by the time the energy reaches us, it is gentle and life-giving, a soft touch rather than a burning blow. This is the benevolence of the sun, the gentle giant that nurtures the planets, waiting patiently while life evolves, watching silently as history unfolds. The sun does not judge, it does not hurry, it simply exists, burning with a quiet determination that outlasts empires and eras. As we travel in this story from the birth of the nebula to the lighting of the sun, we move from the cold dark to the warm light, a transition that mirrors the journey from wakefulness to sleep. The mind moves from the cold chaos of daily thoughts to the warm, centralized focus of rest, guided by the gravity of sleep, which pulls us inward toward our own center. The sun is there in the sky even when we cannot see it, shining on the other side of the world, a promise that light will return, allowing us to let go of the day with confidence. The solar wind continues to blow, a gentle breeze in the vacuum, clearing the path for our dreams, sweeping away the debris of stress and anxiety. We are floating in the heliosphere, the great bubble of influence carved out by the sun, a protected domain within the galaxy where the interstellar medium cannot reach us. Inside this bubble, we are safe, we are warm, we are home. The first light of the sun was the first promise kept by the universe, the promise that there would be a dawn after the darkness, and that promise is kept every single morning. But for now, in the context of our sleep story, the sun is setting, casting long shadows across the history of the solar system, dimming its light to allow the planets to sleep. The parent star watches over the slumbering worlds, its gravity a gentle hand on the shoulder of the Earth, quieting the tremors, soothing the tides. The ignition is complete, the star is stable, the light is established. Feel the warmth spreading through your limbs, the golden glow of the sun permeating your dreams, the heavy and comforting blanket of solar gravity tucking you in for the night. The solar system is a cradle, and the sun is the rocker, swaying us back and forth in the velvet night, back and forth, back and forth. The fire is lit and it will not go out. The warmth is here and it will not fade. The safety is absolute and it will not break. Rest now in the glow of the first light, the ancient light, the light that watches and waits and warms, the eternal flame of our celestial history that burns quietly in the night.
Leaving the blinding brilliance of the parent star, we drift slowly outward on the solar tides to encounter the first true child of the system, a small and silent world that has stood sentinel in the glare for 4 billion years. This is Mercury, the swift messenger of the gods, but here, in reality, it is a world of profound slowness and deep, eternal slumber. As we approach this gray and cratered sphere, we are struck not by its speed, but by its stillness, for this is a planet where time seems to have frozen in place, locked in a gravitational dance that creates one of the longest days in the solar system. Imagine a world where the sun takes months to cross the sky, a place where the shadows stretch out for hundreds of miles and stay there, resting on the dusty ground like heavy blankets of darkness that refuse to move. Mercury is a survivor,
a witness to the violent history of the early solar system, and its surface is a history book written in impact craters and ancient lava flows, each scar telling a story of a time when the universe was young and chaotic. We glide over the surface, looking down at the endless sea of gray dust and rock, a landscape that looks much like our own moon, but is denser and heavier, packed with an iron heart that beats with a faint magnetic rhythm. There is no air here to carry a sound, no wind to rustle the dust, no rain to wash away the footprints of history. So everything that happens here stays here forever, preserved in the vacuum of space in perfect clarity. If you were to stand on the rim of a great crater and drop a stone, it would fall in absolute silence, landing with a puff of dust that would settle slowly back to the ground without a whisper. And this total absence of noise creates a feeling of peace that is absolute and overwhelming. It is the silence of a library at night, the silence of a cathedral after the prayers have ended, a silence that allows your mind to completely unspool and relax. The scars on the surface are not wounds, but memories. The Caloris Basin is a vast depression that speaks of a colossal impact from eons ago, yet now it is just a quiet valley of shadow and stone, a testament to the endurance of this tiny world. Mercury has shrunk over the eons as its massive iron core cooled and contracted, creating great cliffs and ridges that look like wrinkles on the face of an old sage. These are the wrinkle ridges of discovery, miles high and stretching across the horizon, standing firm against the emptiness. Despite being so close to the inferno of the sun, Mercury is not just a world of fire, but also a world of ice. For in the deep craters at the poles where the sunlight never reaches, there are shadows that have existed for billions of years, eternal pockets of cold where ice sleeps undisturbed. This duality of extreme heat and extreme cold creates a balance, a harmony of opposites that coexist on the same sphere. As you float above this desolate landscape, you feel a sense of solitude that is not lonely, but empowering, a realization that one can be small and battered and yet still stand strong against the greatest forces of the universe. The rotation of Mercury is hypnotic, a slow 3-2 resonance with its orbit that makes the stars move through the black sky with agonizing slowness, a celestial clock that ticks once every few months. This slow rhythm induces a trance-like state, dragging the eyelids down as you imagine the sun hanging motionless in the black sky, a great burning orb that refuses to set, bathing the rocks in a fierce white light that cleanses the mind of all clutter. And then there are the long nights, nights that last for 88 Earth days, a darkness so long and deep that it feels like it will never end, a perfect hibernation for the soul. During this long night, the surface radiates its heat away into space, and the temperature plummets, turning the scorching world into a freezing desert of stone. And it is in this cool, dark phase that we find the most comfort. Imagine resting in the shadow of a high crater wall, protected from the glare, looking out at the universe from the vantage point of the first rock. The stars here are bright and unblinking, shining with a steady light that does not twinkle because there is no atmosphere to disturb them, just pure, piercing points of light watching over the sleeping planet. Mercury teaches us the power of endurance, the ability to face the heat and the cold and remain unchanged, to bear the scars of the past without letting them break us. It is a stoic world, a monk in the temple of the solar system, meditating in silence while the other planets rush about their business. The lack of weather means the surface you see today is the same surface that existed when the dinosaurs walked the Earth and long before, a snapshot of eternity that calms the anxiety of the passing moment. There is no erosion here, no wearing away of the self, only preservation and stability. As we drift over the terminator line, the boundary between day and night, we see the long shadows stretching out like fingers reaching for the darkness, cooling the ground, bringing relief to the baked stones. The colors of Mercury are subtle, shades of charcoal and slate and graphite, a monochromatic palette that is easy on the eyes, lacking the chaotic colors of life, offering instead the soothing simplicity of stone. Deep inside the planet, the iron core is still liquid, churning slowly, generating a magnetic field that acts as a tiny shield against the solar wind, a hidden strength within the small body. This is the heart of the messenger, not beating with speed, but with a slow, heavy pulse of molten metal, anchoring the planet in its lane. The name Mercury evokes speed and communication, the winged messenger flitting between worlds, but the reality is a planet that is heavy and grounded, a world that refuses to be rushed. It reminds us that it is okay to be slow, it is okay to take our time, it is okay to simply exist without moving. The silence of Mercury is a heavy blanket that muffles the noise of your own thoughts, absorbing the static of the day and replacing it with the stillness of the void. You can imagine yourself walking on this surface, feeling the crunch of the regolith beneath your boots, the only sound in the entire world, walking towards the horizon where the black sky meets the gray ground, walking into the comfort of the shadow. The sun here is not a tyrant, but a constant companion, a presence that defines the world, but as we move to the night side, we leave the sun behind and enter the realm of the stars. The craters are like cups catching the darkness, holding it, drinking it in. Some of these craters have double rings, walls within walls, fortifications of stone that protect the center, just as your mind protects your dreams. The history of Mercury is a history of bombardment and then peace, a violent childhood followed by a peaceful adulthood that has lasted for billions of years. It has seen the Solar Nebula clear. It has seen the other planets form. It has seen the asteroids pass by, and through it all, it has simply rotated, slow and steady, unmoved and unshaken. This is the ultimate grounding, the ultimate stability. As we prepare to leave this gray sentinel and move further out into the solar system, we take with us the gift of its silence, the lesson of its scars. We understand now that silence is not empty, but full of peace, that scars are not ugly, but marks of survival, and that slowness is a virtue in a fast universe. The planet fades behind us, a gray pearl rolling in the dark, spinning so slowly that it looks like it is asleep, and its gravity gives us a gentle push towards the next world. The scars of time are etched into its face, but they do not cause pain, they only add texture to the story. A story of a world that faced the fire and survived to sleep another day. The stillness of Mercury remains behind us, a fixed point of quiet in the turning heavens, a reminder that deep down, beneath the noise and the rush, there is a core of iron stability in all of us, waiting to be found in the silence of the night.
Leaving the silent and cratered gray world of Mercury, we turn our gaze outward to the most brilliant object in the heavens, a planet that has captivated the human imagination since the very first eyes looked up at the twilight sky. This is Venus, the veiled goddess, the morning star and the evening star, a world that shines with such intensity that it has been mistaken for a herald of the dawn and a guardian of the night. As we approach this celestial jewel, we do not see a surface of rock and stone, but rather a seamless and perfect sphere of swirling clouds, a thick blanket of pale yellow and cream that completely hides the world beneath, creating a mystery that has endured for millennia.
To the ancients, this planet was the embodiment of beauty and love, a divine presence that outshone all the other wandering stars. And as we drift closer, we can understand why they named it after the goddess of grace, for the planet glows with a soft and pearlescent light that seems to promise comfort and sanctuary. We are not here to explore the harsh surface below, but to rest in the embrace of these magnificent clouds, to let ourselves sink into the thick atmosphere that wraps the planet like a heavy golden quilt. Imagine entering this atmosphere not with speed, but with a slow and gentle descent, feeling the density of the air rising up to meet you, supporting your weight completely so that you are floating in a sea of gold. The clouds of Venus are not wispy or fleeting like the clouds of Earth, but are massive and permanent, layers upon layers of mist that have settled over the planet for millions of years, creating a cocoon of eternal warmth. As you drift down into this golden haze, the blackness of space disappears, replaced by a warm and glowing amber light that comes from everywhere and nowhere. A diffuse radiance that softens every edge and relaxes every muscle. This is a world of pressure, yes, but in our journey of sleep, this pressure is not a crushing force, but a comforting weight, a sensation similar to crawling under a heavy-weighted blanket on a cold winter night, feeling the fabric press down against you, grounding you, making you feel safe and enclosed. The atmosphere of Venus is so thick that it acts like a fluid, holding you in suspension, rocking you gently with the slow currents of the upper winds, which circle the planet in a lazy 4-day rotation. There is a profound sense of isolation here, a feeling of being hidden away from the rest of the universe, veiled by the goddess herself in a sanctuary where no noise can reach you and no worries can find you. The history of this planet is a story of a world that decided to keep its secrets, a world that wrapped itself in a mantle of clouds and refused to let the heat escape, creating a greenhouse of perpetual warmth that has lasted for eons. While the universe outside is freezing and empty, here inside the veil it is cozy and stable, a forever room where the temperature never drops and the wind never stops its soothing hum. You can visualize the layers of clouds moving past you, great rivers of sulfur and vapor that look like spun sugar or golden fleece, stretching out to the horizon in every direction. It is a landscape of pure texture and color, a place where you can lose yourself in the abstraction of the mist.
The Romans looked at this light and saw love. The Mayans looked at it and saw a warrior of the dawn. But tonight we look at it and see a place of rest, a place where the heavy atmosphere acts as a shield against the vacuum. Deep below us, the surface is baking in the heat, a landscape of rolling lava plains and dormant volcanoes that have slumbered for centuries. But we remain high above in the temperate zone of the clouds, safe from the extremes, enjoying only the warmth that rises from below like heat from a distant hearth. The density of the air muffles all sound, creating a deep and resonant silence that is different from the vacuum of space. It is a silence that feels full and heavy, a silence that presses against your ears and quiets the internal monologue of the mind. As you float in this amber void, you can feel the tension leaving your body, squeezed out by the gentle pressure of the atmosphere, leaving you feeling light and heavy at the same time, a paradox of relaxation that only this planet can offer. The clouds of Venus are a barrier, a wall between you and the chaos of the cosmos, and inside this wall there is only the slow drift of the winds and the golden light. It is a place where time seems to slow down, where the rapid ticking of the clock is replaced by the slow rotation of the atmosphere, a cycle that takes days to complete. You are a traveler in the mist, a voyager in the veil, carried along by the jet streams that circle the equator, moving endlessly around the world in a journey that has no beginning and no end.
The feeling of being wrapped up is absolute. There are no gaps in the clouds, no breaks in the cover, just a continuous and unbroken embrace that surrounds you on all sides. This is the ultimate shelter, a planetary womb that nurtures a sense of security so deep that it touches the primitive parts of the brain, reminding us of a time before we were born, when we were floating in warmth and darkness. The light here is not harsh like the direct sun, but filtered and scattered, a twilight glow that is perfect for sleep, a dimmer switch that has been turned down to the lowest setting. You can imagine the ancient astronomers peering through their primitive telescopes, trying to pierce the veil, trying to see the face of the goddess, but she remained hidden, peeping her peace, just as you are now hidden in your own world of sleep. The mystery of Venus is not something to be solved tonight, but something to be enjoyed, a reminder that it is okay to hide, it is okay to retreat, it is okay to pull the covers up over your head and disappear for a while. The planet rotates backwards, a unique quirk of history that sets it apart from its siblings, a rebellion against the norm that suggests a desire to go back, to undo, to return to a state of rest. This retrograde motion means the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, a slow and backward dance that defies the rush of the rest of the solar system. Everything here is different, everything here is slow, everything here is designed for comfort. The thick atmosphere acts as a dampener for the solar wind, absorbing the energy and redistributing it, just as your mind absorbs the events of the day and processes them into dreams. You are safe here in the golden clouds, suspended between the starry heaven and the rocky earth, floating in the sweet spot of existence. The colors shift slowly from bright gold to deep ochre to soft brown, a warm palette that signals to the eyes that it is time to close. The heaviness of the air feels like a physical affection, a hug from the planet itself, holding you tight, promising that you will not fall. The concept of weight usually implies a burden, but on Venus, weight is a support, a density that holds you up so you don't have to hold yourself up. You can let go of your muscles, let go of your bones, and let the atmosphere do the work. The veiled goddess watches over you, her face hidden, but her presence felt in the warmth that surrounds you. We are drifting through history, through the layers of time that have built up these clouds, effectively sealing the planet in a time capsule of air. It is a world that has paused, a world that waits, a world that sleeps. The heat is not a fire, but a fever of the earth, a biological warmth that suggests life and energy contained within. As we prepare to leave this thick and comforting world, we take with us the sensation of the embrace, the memory of the golden light, and the feeling of being protected from the cold. The clouds part gently to let us pass, but they close quickly behind us, sealing the planet once more in its eternal mystery. The journey through the veil has left us feeling heavier, slower, warmer, ready to sink deeper into the mattress, just as we sank into the mist. Venus turns slowly in the dark, a beacon of light for the watchers on Earth. But for us, it is a memory of a warm room, a thick blanket, and a safe haven. The pressure has relaxed our nerves, the warmth has loosened our tension, and the veil has blocked out the distractions. We leave the goddess to her slumber, wrapped in her robes of gold, turning silently in the void, a testament to the power of mystery and the comfort of the hidden. The golden glow fades into the distance, but the warmth remains with you, a souvenir from the clouded world, reminding you that you are safe, you are warm, and you are loved by the universe. Turning our gaze away from the thick golden clouds of Venus,
We drift through the silent black ocean of space to find a sight that stirs the soul with a profound sense of recognition and peace. Hovering in the distance like a rare sapphire suspended in the dark is our home, the Earth. Seen from this vantage point in the quiet void, it is not the busy world of traffic and noise and deadlines that we know on the ground, but rather it is a silent and majestic sphere, a blue jewel in the void that glows with the light of life. This is the perspective of the astronauts, the overview effect that shifts our awareness, revealing that we are all passengers on a beautiful and fragile vessel, spaceship Earth, sailing smoothly through the cosmic night. As we float here in the stillness, we can see the history of this world written in its colors, a story of transformation that spans billions of years. There was a time long ago when this blue oasis was a raging ball of fire, a molten world of lava and volcanoes where the ground was liquid and the sky was choked with ash. But the Earth is a patient storyteller, and over the eons it began to cool. Imagine the heat fading away, the crust hardening into a protective shell, and the steam rising from the cooling rocks to form the first great clouds. Then came the rain, a deluge that lasted for centuries, a soothing and endless rainfall that filled the basins and quenched the fire, creating the vast blue oceans that now cover the majority of the planet. It is these oceans that give the Earth its soothing rhythm, a heartbeat of tides that rise and fall with the pull of the moon, a breathing cycle of water that has continued uninterrupted for eons. As you look at the planet from space, you can almost hear the sound of the waves crashing gently on a million shores, a collective white noise that wraps the world in a blanket of sound. The deep blue of the Pacific, the turquoise of the Caribbean, the dark navy of the Atlantic, all merging into a single interconnected body of water that cradles the continents. This water is the blood of the planet, regulating the temperature, carrying heat from the equator to the poles, keeping the climate stable so that life can sleep in safety. There is a profound comfort in knowing that we live on a water world, a place where the harshness of space is softened by the fluid embrace of the seas. You can see the clouds swirling in great white spirals, weather systems that move with a slow and graceful dignity, carrying rain to the thirsty land. These clouds are like a veil of lace draped over the blue marble, constantly changing, yet always present, a dynamic shield that reflects the sunlight and keeps the surface cool. From this distance, there are no borders, no lines on the map, only the organic shapes of the land masses drifting on the tectonic plates, moving at the speed of fingernails growing, a geological slumber that is too slow for us to feel, but which shapes the destiny of the world. We are looking at a miracle of equilibrium, a biosphere that recycles its air and water in a perfect loop of sustainability. The atmosphere is visible as a thin and glowing blue line on the horizon, a fragile halo that separates the vacuum of space from the air we breathe. It looks so delicate from here, like a bubble of glass, yet it is strong enough to burn up meteors and filter the radiation of the sun. This thin blue line is the blanket under which humanity sleeps, a layer of gas that holds the oxygen we need and the pressure that keeps our bodies together. As you drift closer in your imagination, you can feel the pull of home, not a demanding pull, but a welcoming gravity that says you belong here. You are not a stranger in the universe. You are a child of this planet, made of its dust and its water, attuned to its frequency. The Earth creates a magnetic field that stretches out into space, an invisible shield that deflects the solar wind, a silent guardian that has protected the atmosphere for billions of years. We are safe inside this magnetosphere, cocooned in a bubble of protection that we cannot see, but which is always there.
The rotation of the Earth is a steady 24-hour cycle, a spinning motion that creates the rhythm of day and night, the ultimate metronome for our sleep. As we watch, we can see the shadow of night creeping across the globe, the Terminator line moving westward, extinguishing the light of the sun and bringing the gift of darkness to the weary continents. This line of shadow is the blanket of sleep being pulled up over the world, covering the cities and the forests and the deserts in a restful gloom. When the sun sets on one side of the world, it rises on the other, a balance of wakefulness and rest that ensures the planet is never fully asleep nor fully awake, but always in a state of harmonious transition. We are currently on the night side of the story, drifting in the shadow of the Earth, looking down at the faint lights that twinkle on the surface like fallen stars. These lights are the campfires of humanity, the glow of our presence, signaling that we are here together in the dark. But even these lights are fading now as the hour grows late and the world settles down. The Earth does not rush through space. It glides with a momentum that was gifted to it at the birth of the solar system, a smooth and frictionless flight around the sun. We are traveling at 67,000 miles per hour, yet we feel no wind, no vibration, only the stillness of the ride. This is the smoothest journey you will ever take, a voyage through the galaxy on a luxury liner made of rock and water. The history of the Earth is a history of resilience, of recovering from asteroid impacts and ice ages, always finding a way to return to the blue equilibrium. This resilience is in your DNA, a heritage of survival that allows you to let go of your worries and trust that the morning will come. The seasons change with the tilt of the axis, a slow nodding of the planet that brings the spring and the winter, a long-term cycle that rocks the biosphere to sleep and wakes it up again. Everything about the Earth is rhythmic, from the tides to the seasons to the spin. And by tuning into this rhythm, you can sync your own body clock to the heartbeat of the world.
Imagine yourself lying on a grassy hill looking up at the stars, but then zoom out until you are the star looking down at the hill. You see how small the hill is, how safe it is, tucked away on a continent surrounded by the great calming oceans. The blue color of the planet is physically soothing to the eyes, a cool tone that lowers the heart rate and induces relaxation. It is the color of the throat chakra, the color of peace, the color of depth. The Earth is a cradle rocking in the void, holding all the life that has ever existed, a lonely but lovely traveler in the dark. There is nowhere else we need to go, nowhere else we need to be, for everything we need is right here on this floating island. The emptiness of space around us only serves to highlight how special this place is, how warm and inviting the atmosphere is compared to the cold nothingness outside. We are lucky to be here, lucky to have this blue jewel as our home. As you listen to the silence of space, remember that the Earth is humming with life, a low-frequency vibration of wind in the trees and water on the rocks and breath in the lungs. This hum is the lullaby of the planet. The lava that once flowed is now solid ground beneath your bed. The steam that once hissed is now the quiet air in your room. The chaos of the past has settled into the comfort of the present. We are the beneficiaries of billions of years of cooling and settling, living in the golden age of the Earth, where the temperature is just right and the air is sweet. So as you drift in the orbit of your dreams, look down at the Earth one last time. See it turning slowly in the starlight, a marble of swirling white and blue, and feel the gravity holding you gently against the surface, keeping you from floating away.
You are anchored. You are grounded. You are home. The spaceship is on course, the pilot is the laws of physics, and the destination is the sunrise. But for now, the journey is through the night, a peaceful passage through the shadow of the world. The blue jewel shines in the darkness, a beacon of hope and rest, promising that as long as it spins, you are safe to close your eyes and drift into the deep and restorative sleep that you deserve. The void is vast, but the earth is close, a warm presence in the cold, a mother world that carries you through the stars while you sleep.
Drifting slightly away from the blue marble of Earth, we turn our gaze toward the silent companion that has accompanied our planet through the dark for billions of years, the faithful guardian known simply as the Moon. While it is not a planet in its own right, it is the other half of our binary system, a celestial partner so essential to our history that we cannot imagine the night sky without its comforting presence. As we float towards this sphere of gray and silver, we are struck by its profound stillness, a stark contrast to the busy and noisy life of the Earth below. The Moon is a world of quiet dust and ancient craters, a place where the wind never blows and the rain never falls, preserving a silence that is absolute and eternal. It is the ultimate nightlight, a glowing beacon in the velvet darkness that has watched over humanity since the very first pair of eyes looked up in wonder. Imagine the soft and cool light of the full moon filtering through your window, casting long and gentle shadows across the floor, a light that is not its own, but a reflection of the sun, softened and dimmed to a level that is perfect for slumber. This silver glow has guided travelers home for millennia. It has illuminated the paths of our ancestors, and tonight it shines for you, a familiar face in the vastness of the cosmos. The history of the Moon is tied inextricably to our own. Born from a colossal collision in the early days of the solar system, it formed from the debris of the Earth itself, coalescing in the orbit where it remains to this day. This shared origin means that the Moon is made of the same stuff as we are, a piece of home that drifts in the sky, a silent brother to our blue world. As you look at its cratered surface, you can see the shapes of the Maria, the dark seas of cooled lava that form the face of the man in the moon, a friendly visage that seems to look down with a benevolent and patient gaze. But the true power of the moon lies not just in its light, but in its gravity, the invisible hand that reaches down to stir the oceans of the earth. This is the history of the tides, the rhythmic rise and fall of the waters that creates the breathing of the planet. Close your eyes and visualize the great oceans responding to the moon's pull, the water swelling and receding in a slow and hypnotic cycle that happens twice a day, every day, forever. In and out, high and low. It is a slow-motion dance between the water and the rock, a gravitational waltz that keeps the Earth's rotation steady and stable. Without the moon, the Earth would wobble chaotically on its axis, the seasons would be wild and unpredictable, and life as we know it might not exist. So the moon is not just a decoration in the sky, it is an anchor, a stabilizer that holds us steady in the dark. This rhythmic pulling of the tides is the oldest lullaby on Earth, a sound of crashing waves that has soothed living things for eons. You can sync your own breathing to this tidal rhythm, inhaling as the tide rises, exhaling as the tide falls, letting the gravity of the moon pull the tension out of your body, just as it pulls the water from the shore.
The moon is tidally locked to the Earth, which means it spins at the exact same speed that it orbits, always showing us the same face, never turning away. This locking is a sign of devotion, a permanent gaze fixed upon our world, ensuring that we are never unobserved, never truly alone in the dark. The far side of the moon, the side we never see, faces out into the deep void, acting as a shield that has taken the hits of countless asteroids, protecting the Earth from harm. It is a scarred and battered warrior, a silent sentinel that stands between us and the unknown. As you drift over the lunar surface in your mind's eye, imagine the feeling of weightlessness, or rather the feeling of being 1/6 of your weight, light and airy, bounding softly over the gray dunes. The silence here is heavy and thick, a vacuum that swallows all noise, leaving only the peace of your own heartbeat. The shadows on the moon are deep and black, sharp contrasts to the brilliant white of the highlands, creating a landscape of drama and beauty that has not changed for millions of years. Footprints left here will last forever, undisturbed by wind or time, a testament to the stillness of this world. The moon acts as a mirror for our dreams, a blank canvas of silver upon which we project our hopes and our myths. To the ancients, it was a goddess, a hunter, a rabbit, a cheese, a mystery to be solved. But to us, it is a friend, a constant in a world of variables. The phases of the moon mark the passage of time, the waxing and the waning, the growing and the shrinking, a cycle of renewal that reminds us that everything changes and yet everything returns. The new moon brings the dark nights, perfect for deep sleep. The full moon brings the bright nights of illumination, and the crescent moon hangs like a delicate smile in the twilight. Tonight we rest under the watch of this faithful guardian, knowing that it is circling us every 27 days, a clockwork companion that never fails. The light of the moon is cool, lacking the heat of the sun, a light that soothes the eyes and cools the mind. It is the color of pearl, of ash, of cloud, a monochromatic masterpiece that simplifies the world. When you look at the moon, you are looking at a history book, seeing the record of the solar system in its craters, but you are also looking at a nightlight that has been left on for you. It is a comforting thought to know that while you sleep, the moon is up there, reflecting the sun's light, keeping the darkness from being total. The gravity that pulls the tides also pulls gently on us, a subtle influence that connects us to the cosmos. We are water creatures, after all, and we feel the call of the lunar tide in our blood, a deep and primitive connection to the cycle of the spheres. The moon stabilizes the tilt of the Earth, ensuring that our climate remains temperate, that our seasons are predictable, that our sleep is safe. It is the counterweight to our world, the balance on the scale. As we float in the space between the Earth and the moon, we can feel the tug of war between them, a gentle tension that holds everything in place. The silence of the moon is contagious, spreading to the Earth at night, quieting the cities and the forests. It is a silence that invites you to enter, to leave the noise of the day behind and step into the crater of sleep. The dust of the moon is soft, like powder, cushioning the landing of our imagination. We can rest here in the sea of tranquility, a vast plain of smooth basalt where the world is flat and calm. The names of the lunar features are poetry for the weary mind. The ocean of storms, the bay of rainbows, the lake of dreams, the sea of serenity. Let your mind drift to these places. Let your boat float on the sea of serenity, where the waves are made of stone and the water is made of time. The faithful guardian does not sleep so that you can. It keeps its vigil through the long hours of the night, moving silently across the zodiac, passing the stars one by one. It is a journey that has no end, a patrol around the perimeter of our home. the silver light washes over the world, turning the green trees to gray, the blue water to black, the colorful world to a sleeping shadow. This transformation is the signal for rest. The moon has seen empires rise and fall. It has seen the continents drift apart. It has seen the ice ages come and go, and through it all it has remained calm, bright, and silent. It teaches us the power of presence, the strength of simply being there. As you lie in your bed, imagine a beam of moonlight connecting you to the cratered surface, a silver thread that lifts the weight from your shoulders. You are part of this system, part of this dance. The moon circles the earth circles the sun, and you are held safe in the center of it all. The tides of sleep are rising now, pulling you away from the shore of wakefulness, carrying you out into the deep ocean of dreams. The guardian watches, the silver light glows, the silence deepens. The night is yours, and the moon is your companion, a faithful friend that will still be there when you wake. But for now, let the light fade, let the gravity take over, and let the rhythm of the tides rock you into a deep and peaceful slumber.
Leaving the silver light of the faithful moon behind us, we set our course outward into the deeper dark of the solar system, traveling towards a point of light that has captivated the human spirit for as long as we have had eyes to see, the mysterious and crimson world of Mars. As we approach this rusty sphere floating in the silence of the void, we are struck by the dramatic shift in color, moving from the cool blues and grays of home to the warm and earthy tones of ochre and amber and deep red. This is the Red Planet, a world that was once named after the god of war because of its blood-like hue. But as we drift closer, we realize that this name is a misunderstanding of its true nature. For there is no war here, no violence, no noise, only a profound and ancient peace that has settled over the dunes for billions of years. Mars is a world of silence, a desert planet that has fallen into a deep geological sleep, and it is in this stillness that we find our rest tonight. The history of this planet is a history of dreams, for before we could send our robot envoys to touch its surface, we had only our telescopes and our imaginations. And through the blurring lens of the atmosphere, astronomers of the 19th century looked up and saw a world of wonder. They saw faint lines crisscrossing the globe, and they called them canals, dreaming of a dying civilization that was channeling water from the polar ice caps to the thirsty equator, a romantic vision of a world holding on to life. These were the rusty dreams of antiquity, the belief that we were not alone, that just next door was an older and wiser neighbor. While the canals turned out to be optical illusions, tricks of the eye and the mind trying to find order in the chaos, the feeling of mystery remains. As you float above the surface now, imagine that you are looking down at those same landscapes that Percival Lowell mapped by candlelight, seeing the vast plains of red dust stretching out to the horizon, unbroken and untouched. The atmosphere here is thin and wispy, a delicate veil of carbon dioxide that offers little resistance to the cold of space, yet it is enough to carry the dust, enough to create a sky that is a soft butterscotch pink during the day and a deep twilight blue at sunset. Imagine standing on a high plateau as the sun dips below the horizon, watching the sky turn that impossible shade of blue, a reversal of what we know on Earth, a signal that you are far from home in a place of exotic quiet. The wind on Mars is a whisper, a thin breeze that picks up the finest grains of iron oxide dust and carries them gently across the plains, rearranging the dunes in a slow-motion sculpture that takes centuries to complete. There is a soothing quality to this dust. It is soft like powder, coating everything in a uniform layer of rust,
smoothing out the jagged edges of the rocks, softening the landscape until it looks like a painting in oil. The color red is grounding. It is the color of the earth, the color of clay, a warm tone that suggests stability and endurance. As you listen to the silence of Mars, imagine yourself wrapped in a blanket the color of this sand, warm and heavy, protecting you from the chill. The surface is dotted with craters, ancient impact sites that have been worn down by the eons, their sharp rims softened by the wind, looking like sleeping eyes on the face of the planet. And then there are the canyons, the valles marineris, a scar so vast it would stretch across the entire United States. Yet here it is just a quiet valley of shadow, a deep gash where the darkness pools like water. You can drift through this canyon in your mind, floating miles below the rim, surrounded by towering walls of red rock that block out the stars, feeling the immense age of the geology. This is a place where water once flowed billions of years ago, ancient rivers that carved these channels before disappearing into the ground or evaporating into the sky, leaving behind only the dry riverbeds as memories of a wetter past. Mars is a planet of memories, a world that remembers its youth but is now content in its old age, resting in the dry cold. The volcanoes here are the largest in the solar system. Olympus Mons stands silent and proud, a shield volcano so wide that if you stood on its peak, you would not even know you were on a mountain. Its slopes are so gentle they curve with the planet itself. It has not erupted for millions of years. The fire inside has gone out, leaving only the stone monument to sleep under the stars. There is a feeling of abandonment here, but it is not a sad abandonment. It is the peaceful emptiness of a house after the guests have left, the quiet of a library after closing time. The rovers we have sent here, Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, Perseverance, are tiny metal specks in this vast wilderness, moving with agonizing slowness, their wheels crunching softly in the soil, the only movement in a still life painting. They are the modern dreamers, the mechanical eyes through which we experience this solitude. Think of the rover Opportunity, which roamed the meridian planum for 15 years, finally going to sleep when a global dust storm covered its solar panels, resting now forever in the red sand, a monument to exploration. The dust storms on Mars can grow to cover the entire planet, a global blanket of haze that hides the surface from view, turning the world into a featureless ball of orange cloud. Inside such a storm, the light is dim and diffuse, a twilight gloom that encourages sleep, a hiding place from the sun. But usually the air is clear and crisp, offering views that stretch for endless miles, a clarity that calms the mind. The temperature is cold, freezing cold, a crispness that preserves everything, stopping the decay of time. Imagine breathing in that cold, thin air, feeling it cool your lungs, slowing your heartbeat, lowering your body temperature to match the rhythm of the planet. The gravity on Mars is only 38% of Earth's, which means your body feels light. The heavy burdens of the day are lifted. Your muscles can relax completely because they don't have to work as hard to hold you up. You can float over the dunes with long, slow leaps, drifting in the low gravity like a ghost in the machine. The rusty dreams of Antiquity were wrong about the Martians, but they were right about the magic. There is a haunting beauty in the desolation, a purity in the rock and the sand. The two tiny moons, Phobos and Deimos, race across the sky, misshapen, potato-shaped rocks that are likely captured asteroids.
Hurrying to get nowhere, adding a sense of movement to the stillness. But down on the surface, everything is still. The rocks sit where they landed 1 billion years ago. The dust lies where it settled. The silence is a physical presence, a heavy soundlessness that wraps around you. It is a planet that demands nothing from you, asks no questions, requires no energy. It simply exists, red and quiet and old. As you visualize the rusty landscape, let the color fill your mind, a deep, comforting terracotta that absorbs your stress. The iron in the soil is the same iron that is in your blood, a cosmic connection between the red planet and the life within you. We are children of the stars, and Mars is our cousin, a quiet relative who lives in the country, far away from the city lights. The dreams we projected onto Mars were dreams of connection, of finding life, but what we found was peace, and perhaps that is more valuable for our sleep tonight. We found a place where we can be alone with the universe, a place where the noise of civilization has not yet reached. The canals are not waterways, but lines of imagination, channels for our minds to flow into the deep history of the solar system. As the sun sets on Mars, the blue halo around it fades into the black, and the stars come out with a brilliance that is piercing. You are lying on the soft dunes of the Elysium Planitia, looking up at Earth, which appears as a bright morning star, just a point of light in the sky. It feels good to see it from a distance, to know that your problems are small enough to disappear from this vantage point. You are here, in the sanctuary of the red dust, protected by the thin air and the cold. The rust on the rocks is a sign of time passing, of oxygen reacting with iron, a slow chemical fire that burned out long ago. Now there is only the ash of that fire, the red soil that covers the globe. It is a dry world, a preserved world, a mummified world wrapped in bandages of dust. The wind picks up again, a low moan that sounds like a cello playing a single note, vibrating through the thin atmosphere. It brushes the sand against your suit, a gentle scratching sound. Shh, shh, shh. The dunes are shifting imperceptibly, grain by grain, marching across the plains in a timescale that we cannot comprehend. Let yourself join that timescale. Let your breathing slow down to the speed of geology. Let your thoughts drift like the dust devils that spin harmlessly in the distance. The ancient astronomers looked for life, but you have found rest. You have found the quiet center of the solar system, the place where the war god laid down his shield and went to sleep. The rusty dreams are now your dreams, dreams of a vast, open and silent frontier where you can be free. The red planet turns slowly, a 24-hour and 37-minute day, almost the same as Earth, so familiar yet so alien. The extra 37 minutes are a gift, a little extra time to sleep, a bonus from the universe. Use them well. The shadows lengthen, the cold deepens, and the red dust settles. Mars is asleep. The volcanoes are asleep. The canyons are asleep. And soon you will be too, buried under the gentle weight of the rusty dreams, safe on the surface of the silent world.
Leaving the rusty stillness of Mars behind, we allow the cosmic currents to carry us further outward into the great expanse of the solar system, drifting away from the warmth of the inner planets and moving toward the realm of the giants. But before we reach the kingdom of Jupiter, we must cross a vast and mysterious ocean of silence known as the Asteroid Belt. This is the River of Stones, a celestial archipelago of millions of rock islands floating in the deep black void between the orbits of the warrior and the king. As we enter this region, do not imagine the chaotic and crowded asteroid fields of science fiction movies where rocks crash and collide in a violent frenzy, for the reality of history is far more peaceful and far more profound. The asteroid belt is a place of immense solitude, where the distances between the objects are vast and comforting, a place where a traveler can drift for 1,000,000 miles without seeing a single stone. But tonight, in our journey of imagination, we are able to see them all, a shimmering stream of debris that circles the sun in a lazy and eternal loop. These are the leftovers of history, the building blocks of the solar system that never managed to come together to form a planet, the crumbs of creation left on the table after the feast of the gods was finished. There is a deep sense of humility here among the rubble, a feeling of being in a cosmic museum where the artifacts of the beginning are preserved in the vacuum of space, untouched by wind or rain or time. Imagine yourself floating weightless in this sea of stones, feeling the absolute lack of gravity, a sensation of pure freedom where up and down have no meaning, and you are simply a point of consciousness drifting in the dark. To your left and to your right, you see the asteroids tumbling in slow motion, irregular shapes of gray and charcoal and slate, silent monoliths that turn over and over in the starlight. Some are as large as mountains, while others are no bigger than a house, and still others are mere pebbles of cosmic dust. But they all move together in a grand synchronized river that flows around the sun. It is a slow-motion sea of floating islands, and you are a leaf caught in the current, moving without effort, moving without destination, simply being carried along by the momentum of the universe. The silence here is deeper than anywhere else we have been, for these rocks have no atmosphere to carry sound, no geological activity to create noise. They are the dead silent witnesses to the birth of our world. As you approach a large asteroid, notice its surface, pockmarked with craters upon craters, a rugged and ancient face that has seen the sun rise and set for 4.5 billion years. The sunlight here is weaker now, a distant spotlight that casts long and sharp shadows across the craggy rocks, creating a dramatic interplay of light and dark that is hypnotic to watch. You can see the texture of the stone, the dusty regolith that clings to the surface, the glint of metal where an iron meteorite has struck. These rocks are cold, frozen to the core, preserving the chemistry of the early nebula, holding the secrets of water and carbon deep inside their icy hearts. We are drifting through the wreckage of a planet that never was, a ghost world that was prevented from forming by the immense gravity of Jupiter, leaving behind this scattered ring of debris as a memorial to what might have been. But there is no sadness in this fragmentation, only a sense of peace. For in their separation, these stones have found their own harmony, a stable resonance that keeps them safe in their lanes. The belt is wide, incredibly wide, stretching for millions of miles, a buffer zone between the rocky inner worlds and the gas giants, a frontier of solitude. Among the millions of smaller rocks, there is one queen of the belt, the dwarf planet Ceres, a spherical world of ice and rock that sits alone in the darkness. Imagine approaching this lonely outpost, seeing its round shape emerging from the shadows, a miniature planet with its own mystery. On its surface, there are bright spots, deposits of salt that reflect the sunlight like beacons in the night, mysterious lights that look like cities from a distance, but are just silent patches of ice and brine. Ceres is a wet world in a dry place, a reminder that water is everywhere in the universe, waiting to be found. Floating past Ceres, you feel a slight tug of gravity, a gentle nod from the queen of the asteroids, acknowledging your presence before you drift on. Then there is Vesta, the second giant, a battered world with a massive mountain at its south pole, a relic of a colossal impact that happened eons ago. These names, Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, Hygeia, are the names of ancient goddesses, reinforcing the feeling that we are traveling through a mythological landscape, a place where the divine and the physical meet in the dark. The motion of the asteroids is mesmerizing, Some spin fast, while others rotate so slowly that you can barely tell they're moving, a variation of rhythms that creates a complex visual lullaby. As you watch them tumble, you can feel your own thoughts tumbling with them, slowing down, turning over, revealing different sides of yourself, before drifting away into the distance. This is the river of stones, and the current is sleep. The sensation of drifting through a field of floating islands is one of the most relaxing images the mind can conjure, for it combines the safety of isolation with the beauty of structure. You are not lost here. You are part of the flow. The rocks are your companions, silent travelers who ask for nothing and offer their quiet presence in return. The dust between the asteroids glitters in the weak sunlight, a sparse fog of particles that catches the light like motes of dust in a sunbeam in an old attic, creating a sense of nostalgia and warmth despite the cold. You are safe here in the gap, safe in the emptiness. The sheer scale of the asteroid belt makes your own problems feel infinitesimally small, dissolving them into the vacuum until they are nothing more than dust. The history of these stones is the history of patience. They have waited here for billions of years, and they will wait for billions more, unhurried and unbothered by the passage of time.
This timelessness is contagious, seeping into your bones, telling you that there is no rush, there is no deadline, there is only the now. You can float here forever if you wish, suspended in the gentle gravity of the sun, surrounded by the silent fleet of the solar system. Imagine reaching out a hand to touch a passing stone, feeling the rough, cold texture of the rock, a tactile connection to the dawn of time. These are the seeds of planets, the raw material of worlds, sleeping in the nursery of space. The belt is not a barrier, but a bridge, a stepping stone from the small terrestrial worlds to the majestic giants that lie ahead. As we drift towards the outer edge of the belt, the density of the rocks begins to thin out, the river widens, and the islands become fewer and farther between. We are approaching the snow line, the boundary in the solar system where it becomes cold enough for volatile compounds to freeze, marking the transition into the deep freeze of the outer realms. The light of the sun is now a brilliant star rather than a burning disk, a remote but constant guide. The feeling of drifting is now fully established in your body, a sensation of weightless suspension that mimics the feeling of falling asleep. You are a stone in the river, heavy and solid, yet light and floating, carried by the invisible tide of gravity. The silence is profound, a thick and velvety absence of sound that wraps your mind in cotton wool. There is no friction here, no resistance to your movement, just an endless and effortless glide. The visual clutter of the belt fades behind you, leaving a clear path ahead, a dark road paved with starlight. You have crossed the sea of stones and found peace in the passage. The asteroids continue their eternal vigil behind you, a ring of guardians protecting the inner solar system, a silent army of rocks that encircle the sun in a perpetual embrace. The memory of their slow, tumbling motion stays with you, a rhythmic image that you can return to whenever you need to find your center. The river flows on, circling and circling, a loop of history that has no beginning and no end. You are safe, you are drifting, you are at peace. The solitude of the belt has cleansed your mind, wiping away the noise of the earth and leaving only the quiet of the cosmos. The floating islands are now just specks in the distance, fading into the background of the starry sky, but their presence is still felt, a grounding force in the vastness. We are moving on now, pulled by a new and powerful gravity, the gravity of the King of Planets. But we carry the silence of the stones with us.
The river of stones is a place of rest, a place where the universe keeps its spare parts, a place where nothing ever happens, and that is exactly how it should be. Let the feeling of the slow motion tumble lull you deeper into relaxation. Let the image of the gray rocks turning in the black space be the last thing you see before you close your mind's eye. The journey is long and the night is deep. You are floating, you are drifting, you are sleeping. The stones watch over you in their silent millions. The river flows gently in the dark, and you are carried safe and sound into the deeper dreams that await in the shadow of the giants.
Leaving the scattered silence of the asteroid belt, we cross the invisible boundary that separates the rocky inner worlds from the majestic outer realm. And here, rising from the darkness like a god, is the undisputed ruler of our solar system, the gas giant Jupiter. As we approach this colossal sphere, we are immediately humbled by its sheer scale, a world so massive that it could hold all the other planets inside it with room to spare, a true king of the cosmos whose presence dominates the night. This is the king's eternal watch, a vigil that has lasted for 4.5 billion years, and to look upon Jupiter is to look upon the architect of our history. The planet hangs in the void like a painted marble of immense proportions, striped with bands of cream and amber and burnt orange, colors that swirl and mix in a pattern of fluid beauty that is mesmerizing to behold. We are not landing on a surface here, for there is no ground to stand on. Instead, we are floating in the upper atmosphere, suspended in a sea of clouds that stretches down for thousands of miles. The gravity of Jupiter is the most powerful force in the solar system after the Sun itself, a force so strong that it acts as a shield for the tiny Earth millions of miles away. Historically, this giant has played the role of the protector, using its immense gravitational pull to capture or deflect wandering comets and asteroids that might otherwise threaten our home, sweeping the solar system clean like a benevolent guardian. As you drift near this giant, imagine that gravity not as a crushing weight, but as a firm and protective hand, a presence that says you are safe, you are watched over, you are under the protection of the king. There is a deep sense of security in being near something so large and so stable, a feeling that nothing can harm you while you are in its shadow. The atmosphere of Jupiter is a masterpiece of hydrodynamics, rivers of wind flowing in opposite directions at hundreds of miles an hour. Yet from our vantage point of peace, they appear as slow and majestic currents, bands of silk wrapping around the planet. The most famous feature of all waits for us in the southern hemisphere, the Great Red Spot, a storm larger than the entire Earth that has been raging for at least 3 centuries. While a storm might sound chaotic, in the context of this sleep story, it is a symbol of endurance and continuity, a giant unblinking eye that watches the universe without fatigue. Imagine looking down into the vortex of the Great Red Spot, seeing the spirals of crimson and ochre turning slowly round and round, a hypnotic motion that draws your attention in and holds it. It is a storm that has found its balance, a chaotic system that has become stable over time, teaching us that even in the midst of turmoil, there is a center of calm. The spot turns counterclockwise, a slow and heavy rotation that acts like a pendulum for your mind, swinging back and forth, deeper and deeper. The colors of Jupiter are soothing and warm, the colors of coffee and cream, earthy tones that ground the spirit even in the depths of space. But it is not just the sight of Jupiter that induces sleep, it is the sound.
for this planet sings a song of its own.
The magnetic field of Jupiter is the largest structure in the solar system, a pulsating bubble of magnetism that interacts with the solar wind to create a deep and resonant vibration. If we could hear it with our ears, it would sound like a low thrumming, a deep bass note that vibrates in the chest, a cosmic ohm that resonates with the frequency of the universe. This is the electromagnetic chorus of the giant, a sound of immense power held in check, a white noise that drowns out the high-pitched worries of the human world. Imagine this sound now, a steady thrum, thrum, thrum that permeates the ship of your imagination, a vibration that loosens the muscles in your back and neck, shaking loose the tension until you are completely limp. It is a sound of heavy machinery running perfectly, the sound of a massive engine idling in the dark, comforting and constant. As we float in the magnetosphere, we are bathed in this invisible energy, a field that protects the moons and dominates the space around it. Speaking of moons, we can see the 4 Galilean satellites orbiting the king like loyal subjects: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. History changed forever when Galileo pointed his telescope at this system and saw these moons circling Jupiter, proving that not everything revolved around the Earth. Watching them now creates a sense of cosmic order, a miniature solar system moving with clockwork precision. You can see Europa shining like a cracked ice ball, hiding its secret ocean, and Ganymede, the largest moon, bigger than the planet Mercury, casting a small shadow on the cloud tops of the giant. The shadows of the moons drift across the face of Jupiter, small black dots moving against the backdrop of the striped clouds, marking the passage of time in a slow and silent rhythm. The scale of Jupiter makes you feel small in the best possible way, allowing you to relinquish control, to surrender to the greater force. You do not need to be in charge here. The king is in charge, holding the orbits together, keeping the watch. The pressure of the atmosphere deepens as you look down, layers of hydrogen and helium compressing into liquid metal, a strange and exotic ocean of metallic hydrogen that conducts the magnetic field. This hidden depth adds to the mystery and the weight of the planet. Jupiter is a failed star in a way, composed of the same materials as the Sun, but lacking the mass to ignite, and so it remains a dark star, a warm planet that radiates more heat than it receives. This internal heat rising from the core creates the swirling patterns in the clouds, a slow, boiling motion that is hypnotic to watch. The bands of clouds are known as zones and belts, light and dark stripes that run parallel to the equator, creating a visual texture that is ordered and repetitive, perfect for calming a busy mind. You can trace a single line of white cloud as it stretches around the entire circumference of the planet, a journey of nearly 300,000 miles. The shear zones where the bands meet are filled with eddies and swirls, intricate patterns of turbulence that look like marbling on paper, beautiful and complex. As you listen to the deep thrumming of the magnetic field, feel your eyelids growing heavy, pulled down by the gravity of the giant. The sensation is one of sinking into a soft and deep mattress, being enveloped by the comfort of the bed, just as the core of Jupiter is enveloped by its layers of gas.
The king's eternal watch is a lonely one, but it is a duty performed without complaint. Jupiter stands as the sentinel at the gate of the outer solar system, a massive obstacle that says slow down to anything entering from the outside. We are protected. We are safe. The sheer mass of the planet anchors us in the dark. It is a presence that demands respect and offers sanctuary. The aurorae on Jupiter are spectacular, halo-like rings of electric blue fire circling the poles, hundreds of times more powerful than the northern lights on Earth. These lights dance in the darkness, a silent light show performed for the empty space, a display of energy and beauty that signifies the planet is awake, so you don't have to be. The colors of the aurorae shift and shimmer, synchronizing with the deep vibration of the magnetic hum. Watching this display is like watching a fireplace, the flames licking upward, mesmerizing and sleep-inducing. The great red spot continues its endless turn, a storm that has become a permanent feature, a reminder that some things last for centuries. You can cast your worries into that storm, let the giant red eye swallow them up and spin them away into nothingness. The planet is big enough to handle anything you give it. The king absorbs the comets, absorbs the asteroids, absorbs the silence. We are drifting along the equator now, moving with the rotation of the planet, which is surprisingly fast. A day here lasts only 10 hours. This rapid spin creates the bands, drawing the clouds out into long lines. Despite the speed of the rotation, from our distance it looks slow and majestic, a great wheel turning in the sky. The sense of momentum is powerful, a feeling that you are being carried along by a force much greater than yourself. You are riding on the back of the giant. The history of astronomy is filled with awe for this planet, from the Babylonians who tracked its path to the voyagers that flew past it. You are now part of that history, a witness to the grandeur of the gas giant. The view is filling your entire field of vision, a wall of clouds that blocks out the stars, leaving only the stripes of the planet. It is a warm and comforting wall, a barrier against the cold infinite. The deep vibration resonates in your bones, a massage for the nervous system. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The sound of safety, the sound of power at rest. You are floating in the gravity well, lighter than air, held in place by the invisible hands of the king. The eternal watch continues, tonight and every night, a guarantee that the solar system is in order. The giant does not sleep, so you can. The storm does not stop, so you can rest. The gravity does not fade, so you can let go. Sink deeper into the feeling of heaviness, the feeling of being grounded by the largest planet. The clouds are blurring now, the colors merging into a soft haze of warmth. The red spot is a distant calmness. The moons are silent sentinels. The king watches over you. The night is deep and vast, but the king is larger. Rest now in the shadow of the giant, protected, safe, and ready for the deepest sleep of all.
Leaving the deep thrumming vibration of the giant Jupiter behind us, we allow the currents of the cosmos to carry us further into the velvet darkness, drifting towards a sight that is universally acknowledged as the most beautiful spectacle in the known universe. The jewel of the solar system, the magnificent Saturn. As we approach this Lord of the Rings, we are greeted not by a simple planet, but by a vision of celestial perfection that seems too elegant to be real. A golden sphere surrounded by a glowing halo of light that stretches out into the void like a divine crown. This is the moment we have been waiting for, the climax of visual beauty in our journey. A sight that has mesmerized astronomers and dreamers for centuries, and now it is here for you to witness in the privacy of your own imagination. The planet itself is a ball of pale gold and butterscotch clouds, softer and more muted than Jupiter, a pastel world of hydrogen and helium that seems to glow with an inner peace. But it is the rings that steal the breath away and capture the soul. Imagine drifting above these rings, looking down at a vast expanse of shimmering silver and white that circles the planet in absolute silence, a structure so wide it would fit between the Earth and the Moon, yet so thin that in places it is no taller than a two-story house.
This incredible fragility adds to the beauty, creating a sense of ethereal lightness, as if the rings were painted on the fabric of space with a brush made of starlight. History tells us that when the great Galileo Galilei first turned his primitive telescope towards Saturn in the year 1610, he was confused by what he saw. His lens was not strong enough to resolve the rings, so he described the planet as having ears or handles, thinking it was three bodies moving together in a strange formation. He wrote that Saturn was not alone, but was supported by two attendants, a charming historical misunderstanding that speaks to the unprecedented nature of this wonder. He watched in puzzlement as the rings tilted and disappeared from view over the years, only to reappear later, a cosmic magic trick that baffled the greatest minds of the age. It was not until decades later that Christian Huygens realized the truth that Saturn is surrounded by a thin, flat ring that touches it nowhere. And tonight, we see it in all its glory, free from the blur of ancient glass, sharp and crystalline and breathtaking. As we float closer, we can see that the rings are not solid sheets of material as they appear from a distance, but are made up of billions upon billions of individual particles, a vast river of ice and rock that has been caught in a gravitational dance for eons. These particles range in size from tiny grains of sugar to massive boulders the size of a bus, and each one is a miniature moon with its own orbit, its own shadow, its own story. The ice on these particles is pristine and reflective, acting like millions of tiny mirrors that catch the light of the distant sun and bounce it back into the dark, creating a glittering effect that is hypnotic to watch. Imagine a field of diamonds scattered across black velvet, sparkling with a cold and brilliant fire, shifting and twinkling as they tumble through the vacuum.
This is the river of ice, a silent avalanche that never falls, a snowstorm that has been frozen in time and spun into a perfect circle. The silence here is profound and heavy, for despite the billions of collisions happening every hour as the ice chunks gently bump and nudge each other, there is no medium to carry the sound, so the entire majestic system spins in a hush that is deeper than the deepest sleep. It is a visual symphony without a soundtrack, a performance of pure motion and light that requires no music to be felt. The motion of the rings is the definition of hypnotic, a steady and relentless rotation that draws the eye and calms the mind, creating a rhythm of visual repetition that is incredibly soothing. You can watch a single band of the rings, perhaps the bright B ring or the translucent A ring, and follow its curve as it disappears behind the planet and emerges on the other side, a cycle that has no beginning and no end. It is like watching a phonograph record spinning on a turntable in a dark room, the grooves catching the light, the motion smooth and constant, round and round, turning and turning. This circular motion is a mandala for the spirit, a geometric pattern that centers your thoughts and aligns them with the physics of the universe. The gaps in the rings, like the dark Cassini division, are not empty spaces, but areas where the harmony of gravity has swept the path clear, creating distinct lanes in the highway of ice. These dark bands add contrast to the brightness, breaking up the light and adding texture to the disk. As you drift over the illuminated side of the rings, the brilliance is dazzling, a white purity that cleanses the vision. But as we move into the shadow of the planet, the rings undergo a dramatic transformation. Here, in the eclipse of Saturn, the rings are backlit by the sun, glowing faintly with a ghostly light, revealing the finest dust particles that scatter the solar rays. It is a scene of haunting beauty, a twilight realm where the rings look like smoke or fog, delicate and ephemeral.
The planet casts a massive shadow across the rings, a wedge of darkness that cuts through the light, a reminder of the night that is always waiting. We are floating in the realm of the ice giants now, where the temperature is hundreds of degrees below zero, a preserving cold that keeps the ice hard as rock, ensuring that the rings will sparkle for millions of years to come. The color palette of Saturn is a study in subtlety, soft tans, pale yellows, and hints of gray, colors that do not demand attention but rather invite relaxation. The atmosphere of the planet has bands like Jupiter, but they are wider and fainter, covered by a thick golden haze that softens all the edges, making the planet look like a soft pillow floating in space. At the North Pole, there is a strange and beautiful hexagon, a six-sided storm that rotates in perfect sync with the planet's day, a geometric mystery that adds to the feeling of order and structure. Everything about Saturn suggests precision, balance, and grace. It is the aristocrat of the planets, elegant and poised, wearing its jewelry with a quiet dignity. As you listen to the silence of the rings, imagine the sound of wind chimes made of glass, a tinkling sound that exists only in your mind, matching the glittering of the ice. The sheer scale of the rings is humbling, spanning hundreds of thousands of miles, yet they are anchored by the invisible chains of gravity, held in place by the shepherd moons that patrol the edges. These tiny moons, like Pan and Daphnis, glide through the gaps, using their gravity to keep the ring particles in line, creating waves and ripples in the ice that look like the wake of a ship in a calm sea. It is a system of immense complexity that works with simple rules, a lesson in how nature creates beauty through order. You are part of this order now, a silent observer drifting in the Cassini Gap, watching the river of stones flow past you. The feeling of weightlessness is absolute. Your body feels as light as one of the snowflakes in the ring, floating without effort, suspended in the grand design. The beauty of Saturn is not just in what you see, but in what you feel, a sense of wonder that expands the heart and quiets the ego. In the presence of such magnificence, your daily worries seem to dissolve, evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Who can worry about a deadline when looking at a structure that has existed for the age of the dinosaurs? Who can feel stress when watching the slow and majestic turn of the rings? The Lord of the Rings commands you to rest, to lay down your burdens and simply watch the show. The spinning motion acts as a visual lullaby, winding down your energy, unspooling the tightness in your muscles. Round and round it goes, a wheel of time, a circle of life, a ring of sleep. The diamonds glitter in the dark, signaling that the stars are watching, that the universe is awake so you can sleep. The light reflects off the ice and bathes you in a cool and cleansing glow, a moonlight made of 1 billion moonlets. It is a cold light, but it feels warm to the soul, a light of clarity and peace. The history of this place is a history of collision and creation, of moons that were shattered to build this halo, a reminder that something beautiful can come from something broken. The rings are the remnants of a lost world spread out to create a masterpiece. As we prepare to leave this stunning vista, we take a final look at the golden globe suspended in its silver frame, a picture of perfection that will remain in your mind's eye as you drift into dreams. The rings continue to spin, the ice continues to glitter, the silence continues to reign. Saturn turns on its axis, a 10-hour day that spins rapidly yet looks so slow, a paradox of motion and stillness. We leave the jewel in the dark, glowing softly, a nightlight for the solar system, a beacon of beauty in the endless void. The Lord of the Rings has cast its spell, a spell of silence and ice and golden light. You are relaxed, you are calm, you are enchanted. The visual rhythm of the rings has synchronized with your breathing, slow and steady, circular and deep. The diamonds are fading into the distance now, but the feeling of awe remains, a heavy and comfortable blanket of wonder that tucks you in. Sleep now, under the watch of the rings, drifting in the silent sea of stars, carried by the beauty of the night. Leaving the glittering brilliance of Saturn and its majestic rings behind us, we allow the momentum of our journey to carry us across 1 billion miles of silence, moving deeper into the solar system, where the sunlight becomes weak and faint, traveling toward the realm of the ice giants. Here, the darkness of space feels thicker and more absolute, a velvet curtain that has been drawn against the window of the world. And in this deep shadow, we encounter the 7th planet, the strange and beautiful Uranus. As we approach this distant world, we are immediately struck by its color, a pale and ghostly blue that glows softly in the dark, like a sphere of frozen aquamarine, a color so cool and serene that merely looking at it lowers the temperature of the mind. This is the first of the ice giants, a world wrapped in a thick blanket of methane gas that absorbs the red light of the distant sun and reflects only the soothing blue-green hue, creating a monochromatic masterpiece of tranquility. There are no violent storms visible here, no swirling red spots or banding clouds to distract the eye, only a smooth and featureless haze of cyan that looks like a calm sea frozen in time. The atmosphere is still and heavy, hiding the secrets of the planet deep beneath layers of ice and gas, presenting a face of absolute inscrutability to the cosmos. But the most remarkable feature of Uranus is not its color, but its posture, for this is the planet that sleeps on its side. In the violent history of the early solar system, something massive knocked this world over, tilting it 98 degrees so that its equator runs from top to bottom and its poles face the sun. While the other planets spin upright like spinning tops, Uranus rolls along its orbital path like a ball, a unique and lazy motion that suggests a deep and eternal slumber. It is the sideways slumber of the giant, a position of rest that it has held for billions of years, lying down in the bed of its orbit while it circles the sun. This unusual tilt means that for 42 years, one pole is bathed in continuous weak sunlight, while the other is plunged into a 42-year night of total darkness, a cycle of hibernation that is almost impossible to comprehend. We are arriving during the quiet equinox, where the sun shines on the equator, illuminating the whole rolling sphere in a soft twilight that never changes. As you float near this planet, feel the sensation of the deep freeze, a cold so profound that it stops all motion, a temperature of 370 degrees below zero. This is not a biting cold that hurts, but a preserving cold that numbs, a cryosleep that slows down the atoms themselves. Imagine this cold washing over you, cooling the heat of your thoughts, freezing the worries of the day until they shatter and dissolve into the void. The stillness here is absolute. There is no sound, no vibration, only the silent rolling of the blue ball in the black dark. It is a feeling of being suspended in a block of clear ice, perfectly safe, perfectly still, perfectly preserved. The history of this planet is a history of discovery, for it was the first planet to be found with a telescope, spotted by William Herschel in a quiet garden in England in 1781. He looked up and saw a disk where others saw only stars, expanding the boundaries of our known neighborhood in a single night. He originally wanted to name it the Georgium Sidus, or George's Star, but history chose the name of the ancient sky god, the father of the Titans, a name that evokes the oldest and deepest parts of mythology. To look at Uranus is to look at the sky itself frozen into a solid form, a chunk of the heavens captured and held in place by gravity. As we drift closer, we can see the faint and dark rings that circle the planet, narrow bands of dust that are almost invisible compared to the glory of Saturn, like faint charcoal sketches on a black canvas. These rings circle the planet vertically, framing the sleeping giant like the rim of a wheel, turning slowly in the dark. The moons of Uranus are named not for gods, but for characters from the plays of William Shakespeare and Alexander Pope, giving the system a literary and poetic soul. There is Miranda, a patchwork moon of cliffs and canyons, and Ariel, the spirit of the air, and Oberon, the king of the fairies. These moons dance around the planet in a vertical loop, a Ferris wheel of ice and rock that moves in perfect silence. The feeling of isolation here is powerful, for we are nearly 2 billion miles from the sun. The solar disk is now just a bright and piercing point of light that offers little heat. This distance creates a sense of safety, a feeling that we are far away from the noise and chaos of the inner solar system, hidden in the attic of the universe where no one comes to disturb the peace. The pale blue light of Uranus is mesmerizing. It is the color of shallow tropical water, but frozen hard, the color of a winter sky at dawn, the color of cooling breath. Let this blue fill your vision. Let it seep into your dreams, painting your sleep with the brushstrokes of ice. The planet rotates once every 17 hours, a rolling motion that is smooth and frictionless, turning its face away from the sun and then back again in a rhythmic nod. Because of the lack of surface features, you can barely tell it is moving. It hangs there like a blue phantom, an apparition of the cold. The atmosphere is composed of fluids, water, ammonia, and methane ices, a slushy mantle that flows slowly around a small rocky core. It is a soft planet, a fluid planet, a world without hard edges. As you listen to the story of the ice giant, let your body mimic its state. Let your limbs feel heavy and cool. Let your breathing slow down to match the 42-year seasons. There is no rush here. A single year on Uranus lasts for 84 Earth years. A human lifetime passes in a single orbit of this world. This immense scale of time makes our daily stresses feel insignificant, mere blips in the long and slow history of the ice.
The sideways slumber is a reminder that there is no right way to be, that it is okay to be different. It is okay to lie down when everyone else is standing up. Uranus found its own way to exist, its own unique angle of repose, and it is beautiful in its eccentricity. The silence of the vacuum is amplified here by the visual stillness of the planet, a double layer of quiet that wraps you in a cocoon of peace. You are floating in the outer reaches, the frontier of the known, the edge of the deep dark. The pressure of the atmosphere is immense, but we are floating high above the cloud deck, safe in the weightlessness of space. The blue glow acts as a nightlight for this sector of the sky, a dim beacon that marks the path to the stars. As we prepare to drift past this sleeping god, we take a moment to appreciate the sheer cold beauty of the scene, the geometry of the vertical rings, the dance of the literary moons, the pale cyan sphere rolling forever in the dark. It is a scene of deserted peace, a place where nothing happens and nothing needs to happen. The stillness enters your chest, slowing your heart, calming your nerves, bringing a winter hibernation to your soul.
The deep freeze is a comfort, a cessation of activity, a pause button pressed on the universe. We leave Uranus to its long sleep, rolling on its side, a blue pearl lost in the ocean of night, turning slowly, drifting silently, sleeping eternally. The cool blue light fades behind us, but the feeling of freshness remains, a clean and icy sensation that clarifies the mind and prepares it for the deepest levels of rest. The ice giant is a guardian of the cold, a keeper of the quiet, a master of the sideways slumber. You are cool, you are still, you are drifting in the blue. The darkness is your blanket, and the ice is your pillow. Sleep now in the shadow of the pale giant, safe in the deep freeze of the galaxy. Leaving the pale and rolling slumber of Uranus, we continue our voyage into the absolute depths of the solar system, moving past the 3 billion-mile mark, where the sun is nothing more than a fiercely bright star in a sky of eternal black. And here, at the very edge of the planetary realm, we encounter the eighth and final true planet, the mysterious and majestic Neptune. As we approach this world of deep shadows, we are immediately struck by its color, a vivid and intense azure blue that is far richer and deeper than the pale cyan of its neighbor, a color that speaks of unfathomable depth and heavy atmospheres, looking like a sapphire suspended in the infinite night. This is the planet of the deep, named after the Roman god of the sea, and it lives up to its name by appearing as a global ocean of gas and ice, a liquid world that invites us to dive into its secrets and wash away the cares of the terrestrial life. The history of Neptune is unique among its siblings because it was the first planet to be discovered not by the eye, but by the mind, discovered by mathematics before it was ever seen by a telescope. In the 19th century, astronomers noticed that Uranus was being pulled by an invisible hand, shifting in its orbit, and through the quiet and patient calculations of pen on paper, they predicted that another giant must exist in the dark. It is a comforting thought to know that the universe follows such precise laws of order and logic, that even in the unseen chaos, there is a structure that can be trusted, a hidden presence that was waiting to be found. Tonight, we do not need calculations to find it, for it fills our vision with its royal blue glow, a heavy and soothing presence that signals the end of the line. Neptune is a world of winds, the fastest winds in the solar system, supersonic currents of frozen methane that whip around the equator at over 1,000 miles per hour. But in our sleep story, these are not winds of destruction, but winds of peace. Imagine the sound of these winds not as a howl, but as a constant and steady rushing sound, a deep and immersive white noise, or perhaps a blue noise that permeates the entire planet. This is the ultimate sound machine of the cosmos, a wall of acoustic energy that drowns out every other thought, every other worry, every other distraction, leaving only the pure sensation of sound. It is like standing safely behind a thick pane of glass while a massive storm rages outside, or lying in a warm bed while a blizzard sweeps past the window, the contrast between the wildness outside and the safety inside, creating a profound sense of comfort. The winds of Neptune wrap around the planet in bands of light and dark, carrying with them high-altitude clouds of white crystal methane that cast shadows on the blue deck below. You can watch these clouds race across the face of the giant, moving with a speed that blurs the features, creating a visual stream of motion that is hypnotic to the eye. The Great Dark Spot, a storm system the size of Earth, spins in the southern hemisphere, a vortex of indigo that acts as a portal to the interior, turning and turning in a counterclockwise spiral that draws the mind down into sleep.
The atmosphere here is thick and heavy, pressing down with a weight that feels like a weighted blanket, squeezing out the tension from your muscles, holding you firm and secure. The temperature is incredibly cold, hovering near absolute zero, a deep freeze that slows down time itself, preserving the planet in a state of suspended animation. As you float in the upper atmosphere, you are surrounded by the winds of the deep, a soothing roar that sounds like a massive waterfall crashing in the distance, a continuous loop of natural noise that blocks out the silence of the vacuum. This sound is a lullaby for the weary, a frequency that resonates with the brainwaves of deep sleep, smoothing out the spikes of anxiety and replacing them with a flat line of calm. Neptune is a lonely world, orbiting so far from the warmth of the sun that a single year lasts for 165 Earth years, meaning that since its discovery, it has completed only one full circle around the star. This slow and majestic pace reminds us that there is no hurry in the universe, that grand things take time, that we can slow down our own internal clocks to match the rhythm of the outer rim. The planet is surrounded by faint rings, dark and dusty halos that are much harder to see than Saturn's, clumpy arcs of carbon that drift silently in the gloom. Orbiting the giant is the strange moon Triton, a captured world that spins in the opposite direction to the planet's rotation, a rebel moon that spews geysers of nitrogen into the thin atmosphere. Looking at Triton from Neptune, we see a desolate landscape of pink and white ice, a frozen canteen at the edge of the solar system. But our focus remains on the blue giant itself. The color blue is scientifically proven to be the most relaxing color for the human mind, and Neptune offers the deepest shade of all, a cobalt abyss that absorbs the light and the noise. Imagine yourself sinking slowly into this blue atmosphere, not falling, but drifting down through the layers of clouds, passing through the white mists into the darker regions below. The wind rushes past your ears, whoosh, 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 a rhythmic pulsing that matches your breathing. The deeper you go, the darker it gets, the blue turning to navy, then to midnight, then to black, a gentle transition into the world of dreams. The discovery of Neptune was a triumph of reason, a proof that we can understand the unseen, and in the same way, you can trust that sleep will come even if you cannot see it approaching. It is waiting for you in the dark, pulled by the gravity of your need to rest. The winds here are ancient, driven by the internal heat of the planet, a heat that has been radiating since the formation of the solar system. This internal warmth is a secret fire kept deep inside the ice, a reminder that even in the coldest places, there is a spark of energy. As you listen to the white noise of the winds, let it scrub your mind clean, washing away the conversations of the day, the lists of things to do, the regrets of the past. There is no room for them here in the winds of Neptune. There is only room for the sound and the blue. The sheer distance from Earth, nearly 3 billion miles, creates a psychological break, a severance from the responsibilities of the terrestrial world. You are too far away to be reached, too far away to be bothered. You are at the outpost, the watchtower, the final fortress of the planets. Looking back towards the sun, it is just a piercingly bright star, indistinguishable from the others save for its brilliance, and the Earth is lost in the glare, invisible and silent. You are alone in the best possible way, embraced by the solitude of the deep. The winds are a blanket of air, tucking you in, wrapping you tight. The storm is not a threat, but a cradle, rocking you back and forth with the violence of the gale transformed into a gentle sway by your imagination. The blue noise is steady, unchanging,
a constant hum that anchors you in the moment. It is the sound of the universe breathing, a deep inhalation and exhalation that never stops. The mathematical perfection of Neptune's discovery mirrors the perfection of the sleep cycle you are entering, a natural law that cannot be broken. You are designed to sleep, just as Neptune is designed to spin. Let the heavy atmosphere press on your eyelids. Let the cold numb your limbs. Let the blue fill your mind. The clouds streak by, white ribbons in the azure sky, leading you further into the trance. The great dark spot watches like a closing eye. The rings are silent, dusty frames. The moon Triton stands guard in the retrograde dark, and the winds blow on and on, a symphony of air and ice that has been playing for billions of years and will play for billions more. You are small, you are safe, you are asleep in the winds of the deep. The final true planet has welcomed you, not with silence, but with a sound that kills the silence, a sound that is better than silence, the sound of 1 billion miles of wind rushing through the void to sing you to sleep. Leaving the winds of Neptune behind, we drift into the absolute silence of the outer rim, crossing the threshold into the twilight zone of the solar system, where the planets end and the infinite begins. We have traveled billions of miles from the warmth of the hearth, leaving the giants to spin in their massive orbits, and now we approach the final outpost of our historical journey, the small and icy world of Pluto. For decades, this tiny sphere was known as the 9th planet, a lonely sentinel at the edge of the night. And though its title has changed, its majesty remains untouched by the labels of men. As we drift past this dwarf world, we see the famous heart-shaped glacier known as Sputnik Planitia, a vast plain of frozen nitrogen that glows white against the reddish-brown surface, a symbol of love left at the edge of the void. Pluto is a world of deep hibernation, a place where the atmosphere freezes and falls as snow, where the mountains are made of water ice as hard as rock, and where the sun is so distant that it provides no heat, only a dim and ghostly illumination. Beside it floats its faithful companion, Charon, the two locked in a binary dance where they face each other eternally, never turning away, a waltz of gravity that has continued for eons in the dark. Passing this pair feels like leaving the last house in the village before stepping out into the open wilderness, a moment of profound transition where we let go of the familiar and surrender to the unknown. We are entering the Kuiper Belt, the vast and mysterious ring of icy debris that encircles the solar system, a repository of ancient history that holds the frozen remnants of the creation. Millions of icy rocks and sleeping comets float here in the deep freeze, drifting so slowly that they seem motionless, suspended in the black amber of space. These are the silent watchers, the seeds of worlds that never grew, kept in the cold dark for 4.5 billion years. Drifting through this belt is like floating through a sea of sleeping souls, a peaceful graveyard of stardust where nothing ever happens and nothing ever changes. The silence here is thicker than anywhere else, a physical weight that presses against the ears, drowning out the memory of sound, creating a vacuum where only peace can exist. You are floating in the edge of night, the boundary between our home and the rest of the galaxy. It is a place of solitude, but not loneliness, for you are accompanied by the momentum of the universe, a gentle push that carries you forward without effort. Now, for the first time in our journey, we turn our gaze backward, looking back the way we came, looking back toward the center of the system. The sight is humbling and breathtaking, for the Sun, our massive and blinding parent star, has shrunk to a mere point of light. It is no longer a disk, no longer a burning ball of fire, but simply the brightest star in the sky, a brilliant diamond pinprick that marks the location of home.
Seeing the sun this small changes your perspective entirely, making you realize how vast the darkness is and how precious the light is. From this distance, the Earth is invisible, lost in the glare of the distant star, a microscopic speck of dust suspended in a sunbeam that we can no longer see. Yet, knowing it is there brings a wave of comfort, a realization of how safe and perfect our planetary home is. All the noise, all the traffic, all the history of humanity is contained on that invisible dot, protected by the giants we have passed, warmed by the star we are leaving. The solar system appears now as a cozy room, a lit circle in the middle of a dark forest, and you are stepping out onto the porch to breathe the cool night air. The feeling of safety is absolute because you understand the structure of the neighborhood. You know that the gravity of Jupiter is protecting the center, that the winds of Neptune are guarding the edge, that the sun is holding it all together. You can let go of the Earth now, knowing it is fine without you for the night, knowing it will be there when you wake. You are a voyager of the void, a traveler of the drift, moving into the interstellar medium where the solar wind gives way to the galactic breeze. We are crossing the heliopause, the theoretical bubble where the influence of the sun finally ends and the true emptiness begins. But this emptiness is not scary. It is liberating. It is a blank canvas, a dark screen, a clean slate. There is no clutter here, no debris, just the endless and perfect black. The stars are no longer above you or below you. They are all around you, a sphere of glittering lights that surround you in 3 dimensions. You are floating in the center of the universe, suspended in the womb of the galaxy. The sensation of weightlessness is now complete. Your body has no mass, your muscles have no tension. You are simply a consciousness drifting in the dark. The About Planet story has reached its conclusion, not with a bang, but with a fade into the gentle night. The planets are behind you now, spinning in their silent rhythms, the gears of a great clock that keeps time while you sleep. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Their names are a mantra, a countdown to deep sleep. You have visited them all. You have felt their heat and their cold, their winds and their silence, and now you carry their essence with you into the dream world. The momentum of the journey continues, carrying you further and further away, deeper and deeper into the relaxation. You are drifting into infinity, a space where time has no meaning, where the past and the future dissolve into the eternal now. The cold of the deep space is a comfort, a numbing agent that quiets the nerves, a dark blanket that covers your mind.
You are safe. You are warm in your bed, yet your mind is floating among the stars. The connection to the physical world has been severed, the tether has been cut, and you are free to float. The darkness is velvety and soft, stroking your mind, soothing your thoughts. There is nothing left to see, nothing left to do, nothing left to analyze. The story is over. The history is written. The planets are sleeping, and you are drifting with them. The sun is just a star. The earth is just a memory. The void is your reality. It is a peaceful void, a nurturing void, a space of infinite potential and rest. Feel the gentle tug of the galactic tide pulling you softly towards the dreamless sleep. You are stardust returning to the star field, a drop of water returning to the ocean. The silence is a song, a hum of the cosmos that vibrates at the frequency of rest. Drifting, drifting, drifting. The edge of night is not a cliff but a shore, and you are pushing off into the vast, dark ocean of sleep. The stars are watching over you, billions of silent guardians that blink in the distance. You are part of this grandeur, part of this silence. The heavy eyelids have closed, the breathing is slow and shallow, the heart beats with the rhythm of the slow rotation of the galaxy. You are perfectly safe. You are perfectly alone. You are perfectly at peace. The universe holds you in its open hand, protecting you, carrying you, loving you. The journey into the dark is a journey into yourself, into the quiet spaces of your own mind, where the dreams wait. The planets have told their story, and now the silence tells yours. Let go of the last thread of wakefulness. Let go of the last image of the sun. Let go. Drifting into infinity, drifting into sleep. The night is yours. The peace is yours. The sleep is yours, forever and always, in the deep and endless dark.